Well, good afternoon. Are you guys ready for a fun and engaging panel? I am. All right. I'm going to start out with some brief introductions. I'm Dan Kidd on the brand partnership team at iSpot. We are a unified measurement platform covering all things video with three core pillars: creative, in-market, and conversions. Be glad to talk to you if you'd like. And lead on, Wendy.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all here. I'm Wendy Duan. I'm the head of marketing here at Teremana Tequila. We are a super premium tequila brand founded by actor Dwayne Johnson. And all of our tequila is made from 100% Blue Weber agave, crafted in small brick ovens and handcrafted in small copper pot stills as well. And our home base is in the small town of Jesus Maria, Jalisco. So distributed it all across the U.S. and internationally. So next time you're at a bar near you and in Austin, make sure to look out for us.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cortney Hollinger. I'm the head of marketing and HR, weird combo, at Clean Cause. We're an Austin-based beverage company. We make a better-for-you organic yerba mate tea, and we give half our profits to people in addiction recovery for recovery housing programs.
Hi, I'm Ashleigh Edmonds, and I lead. Thank you. I lead mac and cheese for the United States, and the kind of star in my portfolio would be Kraft mac and cheese.
Excellent, thank you. Starting off with the first question, when you think about your own brand, what was the original entry point for building the community? Was it the product, the mission, the cultural moment? And how do you know when you made that transition from just an audience to a community?
I can start first. So Teremana was started back in March of 2020, which I think all holds a very special memory in all of our minds. And, really the thesis of how we built our community is based on this premise that we knew an audience is going to watch you, but ultimately a community is one that participates with you. And so when we first launched with this brand, one of the first things that we saw was that a lot of our drinkers were learning how to make cocktails at home for the first time. Everyone was hosting virtual happy hours. And so at the time we thought to ourselves, how do we do more than just produce and put out content on our social channels? Of course, Duane is one of the most followed actors of all time, so the audience is not an issue. But we asked ourselves, how do we actually get people to be involved and get them to participate during a time where no one was going out to bars or restaurants? So we started this series called Teremana Tuesdays, where every single Tuesday for 2 years straight, Duane and as well as our ambassadors would come onto social media, teach people how to make a cocktail, have a Teremana toast with them, and just talk about what is happening in life. And soon enough, the turning point where we saw an audience turn into a community for us was when people started participating. And the brand started to repeat that content back to them. And I think for us, when we realized that we built a community was when the brand stopped being the main character in the storytelling, but actually the audience picked up where we left off and continued that journey.
That's Dwayne The Rock.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
I love that. That's for us, our product was built on our mission and our give back. And our founder was a person in recovery himself, and he wanted to make sure that from day one, our product was giving back money to help people. And so kind of our product built on the back of our give back and the community around it. So we know that almost everyone in America is touched by addiction in some way, someone they know. And so we are kind of our thought about how we reach our community is that people buy our products and the product gives back to help people that they're going to know, then more people want to buy our products because it's helping more and more people. And we've seen that in, the friends and family members who are like, my son got a scholarship from y'all 3 years ago, or, I'm in recovery when you're wearing one of your shirts, or things like that. So we've seen it come together through the people with lived experience.
Yeah. Look, my brand is almost 90 years old, right? And so the reality was it was started because Kraft wanted to sell more cheese. Like that's the premise. Like, let's put some cheese and some noodles together. But I think really what it did at the time was like right before the Depression, and it became a food that fed America. And we did it in a way that was very convenient. It was nutritious. It was wholesome. and it was affordable. And I think for a long time we took advantage of that. Like we kind of got lost in the story. We did all these things, et cetera. And now we're looking at an American population that looks very different, and not all people like grew up with Kraft mac and cheese. And we have this really beautiful life cycle that is like you eat it as a toddler, then you learn how to cook it, then you go off into your own adult life. You're making it for yourself, and then you have kids, and then you start all over. But what we found is like, one, we need to get back to our values and like tell people what we really care about: taste, value, convenience, and that we stand for that. We want to serve American families. But now as American families look different, we talk about like intercepting them, right? Like there are people that I need to get in connection with and understand how I can give them better taste, value, convenience in their life in their home now. And so it means like getting into like more Hispanic communities, right? Like this isn't necessarily a product form that is just like innate to them picking up as they come here. So we talk a lot about those inception points and like integrating with younger children, et cetera. But we're also talking about the brand staying relevant for adults as you age out, right? And so it's like Kraft mac and cheese is a kid food, so all of us, right? It's for little kids, but we're also thinking about our portfolio in such a way. It's like, how do I keep, once you are no longer a kid, how do I keep you in the portfolio as an adult until you have a kid again, and then you reintroduce the product? And so for us, when we talk about those communities, finding them and then making sure that we're behaving and speaking to them in a way that makes a lot of sense from our communication, but also getting the right offering to make sure that they want to engage with us and can continue to engage with us.
So authenticity to each community.
Yes.
Fine. How are you turning digital experiences into real world experiences that deepen the relationship and engagement with the brand?
I'll jump in. Like we're honestly we're not really that great about it. Like we're still figuring out how to show up in the real world in a meaningful way. So I'm spending a lot of time with my agency partners thinking about like beyond brand colors and a logo, like how do we want to show up? So that is interesting. And yes, I want to put food in people's hands and it makes them very happy, but it's like, what are the in real life experiences that I can have with these communities to offer them more value, right? And so like we'll go back to the taste, value, convenience, right? Like, so we're gonna have to show up in those ways. But when we're talking digitally, it is just typically a one-way conversation. And so it's like we are trying to figure out how to change the narrative, better listen to the communities, and make sure it's like free-flowing conversation. And so we're at the beginning stages of that, and that's why I was excited to be on the panel with these women, because they're doing it in a very, very different way, right? And so it's like trying to catch up and figure it out versus like being at the forefront of it.
For us, last year, we launched a running app, and what we found, the research was that people in recovery have a better chance of staying in long-term recovery if they're active and have a community around them, and having physical activity. So we launched a running app for people in recovery, people who support them, anybody who wants to use it. But so that's the digital side, but then we took it to the real world by, we list out run clubs in your area where there may be people who are supportive of people in recovery, and we get, we take drinks to run club sessions so that, we're trying to make it so that you can find the people digitally, but then building the community around our product, around the exercise and what they're already doing and what is already important to them.
Within spirits and within general alcoholic beverages, I would say it's a hugely high physical touch type of space, right? I mean, when we think about when we consume the product, it's in bars, it's in restaurants, it's at home together with our friends. And the unique thing with how Teremana started was we started at a time when none of that was possible. And due to various COVID restrictions, we had to really lean on the digital connection to our consumers for about the first year and a half. But as soon as those COVID restrictions lifted, I would say the majority of our marketing dollars for then the next 2.5 years shifted towards IRL experiences. And so the first thing that we did in 2021 was we created something called the Monomobile, which was our traveling food and tequila truck that ran for 11 out of 12 months of the year and went to all the different communities that we had been already speaking with online, but now in real life. We stopped at fire stations, we stopped at hospitals, but we also stopped at where people are gathering as they're starting to come out into their normal activities again. And still today, as we have continued to expand this brand, more so in the on-premise as well as the off-premise, we're expanding those in real life experiences as well, because for us, kind of meeting our consumers where they are, which is in moments where they are connecting with others and where they are celebrating, is hugely important to bridge that gap between the online communities that you're building and also being in their real lives.
Cool. I really like the makeup of this panel, so when I was offered the moderator position, I jumped right on it. And the reason is that you all represent brands at different stages and scales, right? Obviously, Kraft is a very different scale than the others. Does the size or maturity of a brand change the way that you approach community building? And what advice would you give to brands that are just starting out and may have limited budgets?
I'll go first. So we've been around about 10 years. We started out as a water company, and we moved into this energy space about 8 years ago. You know, we were kind of day to day. We're still in the startup, so have 1 foot in of that, 1 foot into getting further along. But you know, for us, we have always had small budgets because we give so much of our money back to our give back, and so it's like it's always been how do we get to the most people with the least amount of money, doing things in a very, very scrappy way, finding, you know, people who will work with colleges to get like a sorority to give them all these drinks so they can give them out, finding ways to like find people who will help us do what we're doing for free, and then we get our message out because you know, we're smaller budget, smaller scale than Kraft we'll never have that budget. So
I have a lot of money, and it's true. But the pressure is still there, right? And one of the things that we talked about when we were like, okay, what do we want to leave with the audience is like, how do you navigate this stuff? Like, when I went back to the organization and said, we really want to show up for Hispanic communities, people were like, oh, it's like, yes, we should, but like, how do you do that? How much money? Should we go somewhere more proven where the payback is going to be a blah, blah, blah? But it's like, but this is the right thing to do. This is the next generation of consumers. And so you really have to like build the case. You have to take some shots. I said that earlier this morning on a different panel. You have to take a shot, but you've got to prove it out and make sure that you're saying, hey, this is going to be important to the growth of my business. So there have been plenty of times, right? Like I've got a friend in the audience. Everybody wanted to talk to Black communities during COVID. We were Heinz. We had no business talking to Black people about anything that was going on in the world. And we hustled. We did all the things right. We kept it offline. We didn't make it big. We didn't make it splashy. And we showed up for Black communities in a real way. We're still doing it. We've committed more than $6 million in terms of Black restaurant owners. And then when you see DJ Mustard and all of that stuff, right? And then splashing, it's big and everyone's excited about it. That's because more than 5 years ago, we said Black communities matter to food. And we're going to stand for them, and we're going to do the hard work offline. And we didn't have money for that because I had to pay for I had to pay for Heinz Field and all of those things, right? That everyone believed in. They did not believe in us putting real money there. We said this matters, and we're just not going to tell everyone about it. And when we do, it will be a moment, and it was a moment. And we showed up and got all the praise and winning all the awards and the can and the Clio and all of that stuff. So it's like, you have to have the conviction that this is a community that matters. We're going to do something about it. And whether you have $5 or $5 million, you put the investment there. You tell the powers that be why it works and why it's important. And then hopefully you can build it over time and it becomes something that's really meaningful or that you can point to and say, like, this is what we're about.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And I think what we've seen across the diversity of brands that we represent is that no matter if you are a 90-year-old brand or a 6-year-old brand, in the case of Teremana, building a community is just as difficult because it's really about depth rather than scale. If you have enough money, you can scale an audience. You can buy all the impressions in the world, but that does not get you a community. Mm-hmm. A community needs to hear that you understand them from a brand and that they feel like they belong to whatever cause it is or mission that you are driving forward. And so my advice to brands that are just starting out is don't worry about trying to scale as quickly as you possibly can. Focus on one community area, whether it's interest-based, whether it's occasion-based. Understand what it is about your brand that where you can provide value to them and likewise back, and focus first on that before you move on to the next community and the next audience.
Well, that's some good advice and leads right into my next question. How do you tap into the passions and identify those passions for each audience, right? So whether it's sports and running app or wellness or cultural and music, in a way that feels authentic to the brand, right? So how do you match that brand authenticity back to passions in a community? And then once you have that, how do you leverage that in other media types? Can you repurpose the things you're doing in community?
I can start first with this one. I think when it comes to tapping into the right audience for your brand at Teremana, we really focus on this idea of looking at the culture in which our audience plays in rather than targeting, right? And for Teremana, what we quickly realized was that not only based on our category of tequila, but also in terms of the gathering occasions, as well as our brand positioning, which is all about bring good mana, which means bring good energy to the world. We look at partnerships by tapping into the intersection between hospitality, between food and drink, and those good energy moments. So a recent partnership that we just kicked off that taps into this fandom was with Wingstop for the Super Bowl. We knew that going into the Super Bowl period, which obviously is so crowded with so many brands, we didn't want to necessarily focus on just the sport itself or just the game, but rather on the insight that our community has shown us, our mana makers, which is the fact that they're coming here for the celebration, not necessarily to pay attention to the score. And so we found a like-minded partner in Wingstop in that we were both here about bringing that fan experience to life and that celebration to life, no matter if you're the most diehard sports fan or you're really just here for a good time.
Yeah, alignment with other brands, that's an interesting point and a good place to start.
Yeah, I think it's really knowing who wants your product, figuring out who your market is, who the people that you're trying to get to first, because then it's going to be easy to figure out how to get it to them. So like for a better for you organic drink, it's our consumers are people who are healthy, active, already working out. So finding them in their fitness communities. It's moms who are chasing after 2-year-olds and want to not have crash and jitters later in the day. So just figuring out like really who your people are, and then to connect to them, finding like that last panel was talking about, if you have influencers who are really authentic, who really like your product, you don't really have to coach them on what to say because it's authentic, and that's who people want to hear from.
Yeah, I think the intersection is important, right? It's like you have to know what your community cares about and what moves them and motivates them and what they find valuable, and then you have to recognize, like, for yourself and your brand, what are you about? What moves you? What is valuable to you? And then find the spaces where that connection is just quite obvious, right? So the other business in my portfolio, the one that doesn't have as much money, right, is Velveeta. And so Velveeta is my favorite product in the portfolio. It tastes really good. Taste is great. Texture is great. And we talk a lot about, like, it's drippy, it's cheesy, it is not for everyone. And so we kind of like take that mantra to heart, and we find people that are just like extra and like live into that, right? And so all of our partners and all of our partnerships, we're trying to go find fans that are just extra, right? So it's like we've been playing around with the idea of like doing WWE, right? It's like that's a great fandom for us to tap into. We activated with the Chiefs, which was really cool, and so we have like this Velveeta drip check, and so outside of the stadium, people get to go and like show off all their gear and their swag and all this stuff, and it's really fun. But it's like, and those are really small budgets, but like the people were going crazy. We saw the sales lift in the local market, right? Like, and it was really like, we're able to tie it all in together. And you mentioned like how else you use this stuff. We've got video. We're putting it back on social and showing off these fans and their drip and all of that stuff. But I'm taking that to Sam's and Walmart and be like, look how we just activated in your market. Is that so cool? We're coming back. We're going to do it again. Literally next week, I'm showing the video, right, to Walmart. We're like, we're going to do this again. How are you going to go bigger with us? Let's put some Velveeta on the floor in the Kansas City market. Let's make it cool, something special, right? So I think there's a lot
not
of
on
great...
the floor.
No. On the floor, right? But I think the thing about it is like you take those activations, you put them in the places where it matters to the rest of your stakeholders. You use those as assets, make it work really hard for you.
Yep. All right, so jumping a little bit, and it goes back to kind of understanding the community, but how do you make the experience you're creating actually feel like a natural extension of the brand promise? What does that review look like? So I'm sure there are a lot of great ideas, but how do you make sure it aligns?
I can speak to it first. I mean, for Teremana, as I mentioned before, we always go back to the core of what our brand positioning is and what we stand for, which for us gives us a great filter already, which is how do we continue...
They were taking shots down there of Teremana. That's what's happening.
Exactly. But for us, it's about how do we bring more good energy to the world, and what are those moments that really allow us to connect people, truly connect people. And I think that offers kind of a first lens of a filter for us anytime we're exploring a new creative idea, a partnership. But beyond that, it's also developing your own brand personality, right? What is your tone of voice? And what is the, if your brand was a person, how would they act? How would they behave? And I think that together has provided a great filtering criteria for us to make sure that, we're always on the ball in terms of having a very consistent brand look and feel, but at the same time, activating with our communities in that consistent way as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too, is having really good brand standards, knowing what your voice is, and testing everything through that. Like, it's really easy to start using, photographs that are in moody, dark lighting. But if your brand image is, bright and cheerful, and it's like, you just have to know who you are and stay true to that and have everybody on the team know what it is too.
Yeah, I'll just add really quickly. One of the things that we've been doing, our new CMO, Todd Kaplan, has come in and he does this thing. He loves collaborativity sessions. He made up this word and we're like, oh gosh, this thing that we have to do. Oh my goodness. But we bring all of our agency partners together. So everyone is well versed in the tone and what we care about, what the business objectives are. And to your point, it's like a team of people. And then we ideate together, which a lot of the agency partners don't love it. But what we get to see is like heat for ideas and things that this community of really smart people that love your brand just like you love your brand are saying you could do this. So one of the things that we did last year, we've been doing these flavor drops, and we wanted to do this very strange apple pie flavor around Thanksgiving, and every single agency was like, let's do it with Jason Biggs. And I was like, are we gonna go there? Kraft mac and cheese, we're gonna talk about American pie, are we gonna go there? Every single person was like, let's do it. Jason was game. It was awesome. He's totally a family man now. He's got kids. And we just kind of did if you know, you know. Guys, we sold 100,000 boxes of this thing at Walmart. We got over 2 billion impressions by doing this activation with Jason Biggs. Walmart's calling me, let's do another one. What celebrity can we do next, And those things, that came out of just being with the people that love my brand together. And we're like, that we can do it. Let's go. Let's chase that, right? So you got to have your community around that can help you point the brand in places that maybe, by myself, I probably wouldn't have signed up for that by myself. But watching all those people was like, let's do it. And it worked.
Yeah, that actually leads right into my next question, and you answered part of it, but how do you think about connecting all of the touch points across marketing, social events, and digital, and all those things to ensure that the community event feels cohesive with all the other marketing and part of the brand promise?
For us, it's not just about having it feel cohesive. It's the most efficient way, right? So if we're going to give money to sponsor an event, we want to make sure that every retail store around it has a display in it. We also want to make sure that our social influencers in that area are talking about it. If we're going to spend $5, we need to make the most of that $5, and it's important for us on both like as a brand, but as using every dollar well.
Yeah, I agree. And to build on to that, I think the main point that we try to look at with Teremana, it's not so much, hey, are we hitting the marketing playbook of all the channels that we're supposed to be reaching, but rather looking at the lives and the consumption moments of our consumers and really understanding where are they getting inspired, where are they enjoying tequila, and how are they doing it, and making sure that then the story that we're telling actually touches them. Because at the end of the day, right, we are all consumers and we are getting inspired and consuming content in so many different methodologies and facets. And so I think it's really important to keep that in mind, because at the end of the day, you're servicing your consumer and trying to meet them where they are. It's not just about having a checklist in a marketing playbook that you're trying to stick to.
Anything more, Ashleigh? Nope.
No notes.
All right. So I'll give you first crack at the hardest question.
Oh, gosh.
Because
Okay.
you brought up the $6 million spend number, right? So
Way more than that. But
how are you able to measure the impact of community events and that kind of investment? You know, it may be smaller at the other brands, but it's still significant in light of the brand size. How are you able to justify the spends and show material results back to management?
this is the hardest part. I think it's really about setting expectations up front about what you can expect from the engagement. I think everybody wants the return on investment like yesterday. And so you're trying to like prove everything out. Everyone is so eager for the immediacy. Like, did the media went on today? Where's the share, right? Where's the consumption? It doesn't work like that. But if you can set the expectations up front about what it will move or how it will impact over time, I think that's a good place to start. When we're doing community stuff, I'm checking in and saying, like, how did you feel about the brand, like, beforehand and then afterwards? That's probably the biggest thing that, like, we can do. Is it a survey? Is it a text? Like, have I built community with you before? Like, that's really what it's about. And so we tried to do that on very small scale. You mentioned the college students, and I love this. Like, we started one of our brand innovator partners, Recess. Like, we were able to bring them into the organization, and I was like, I've got to prove that this sampling works. Like, help me. And they're like, let's run a survey. Like, let's talk to these college kids beforehand and afterwards. And we were able to do that. And now Recess was able to scale across our company, doing a lot of sampling for us, reaching audiences that before we would never be able to get to with some of our other traditional vendors. So that was helpful in doing that partnership with them, these vendors that we work with, to say, like, look, results really matter at my company. Help me figure out a way that I can justify this. But then also my job is to, like, level set the expectations. Because if you think I'm going to do one event and then all of a sudden the business is fixed, like, you're insane. Like, you've got the wrong expectation. So,
Yeah, I think that's really a key point, is set the expectation up front and then it's achievable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for us, last year, our whole strategy was to move every dollar as close to the register as possible. So if we were spending it, it needed to result in a sale. And it was so easy to see what the ROI on that was. It was like, we're giving you this coupon and you redeemed it. Like, we could tell. Because we did that and we did it so efficiently and well, our board was like, here, you can have more money and you can push it further up the funnel. And I think that, like, exercise was really good for us. I always tell my team to do less more. And so it's like finding those things that now we know worked really well. How can we amplify those? But it's like you have to start with the things that you can measure and then take some chances on things that you can't, but hopefully find ways that you know that your sales are going up, or are people commenting on your social posts, or what's happening, finding little ways to measure it, even if it's hard.
I think just like building anything when it comes to driving growth in a brand, I think creating a community absolutely has to tie to measurable business impact. And the thing with community and how we treat it at Teremana is that we don't think about building community as just having one-off experiential events and being part of this festival or that festival, but really the fact that building a community helps our metrics throughout the entire funnel. not only does it help us drive awareness, which we can measure through our brand health trackers, are more people in our target audience actually getting to know Teremana, but all the way to trial through all of our sampling programs in the on-premise as well as off-premise. And then finally, measuring what does loyalty look like once you've actually built that community, right? And we look at that through, yes, consumer feedback and survey data, but also social media is a great way to look at it as well. Are people actually then recommending your product online? Are they talking about it? And so for me, building community absolutely has to tie back to business results. But if you do it right and you do it through multiple channels, you can have a full funnel effect.
Yeah, you said something interesting there, the social measurement and, the keeping an eye on are people talking about the brand more and stuff. That could be a very interesting metric to help the justification discussion.
It's a good early indicator too. Like, I think sometimes people want the result to come through in consumption, but one of the things that we started talking about a lot more recently is like, what are those earlier indicators that are, you're getting a signal to say like, oh, there's momentum here, there's heat here, that we are on the right track. Because transparently, the brand health, it takes too long it's a whole year later. I can't walk around with that. I'm literally going to wait for a year to see if this works, right? We really can't. So those early indicators can help.
Excellent. So looking ahead, what do you think will separate the brands that successfully activate communities from those that struggle to build them? Right? What are the key things that make it successful or not?
I think the thing that's on my mind a bit, why all of this even matters, is like people want to be connected and people want to be seen and feel seen and understood. And so the brands that will be the most successful know that, understand that, and are putting in the work to build the teams that are curious, diverse, to be successful.
People want to connect with the brand, so give them the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, or they want to connect with humans. They care less about brands, but a brand can help reflect and be like, oh, that thing gets me, that product, that brand, that business, they get me, therefore I will participate with that thing.
I think a big thematic that we have obviously seen this week here at Brand Innovators, as well as at South by, has been the rise of technology and AI, right? I mean, you can't go to a single panel without someone mentioning it. And being in a category where physical connection is so important, my biggest advice and how I'm looking to the future for Teremana is not to seek technology as the antithesis of connection, but how do you use it to your advantage? How do you use it to better find your audiences, to better find your communities? But it is not a replacement either for real life connection. And so we will continue to be investing in bringing people together through real life experiences at Teremana, but we're certainly not shying away from using technology to help us better do that.
Thank you very much.
Great job. I actually have a question for the panel real quick. So I asked this earlier. Would love to know, we just talked, finishing up on AI. What do you tell tacos? Yeah, that was, what do you tell the younger folks that are just graduating? Should they be concerned? How do they deal with it? Is it going to take their jobs? Like, do you have any advice for people who are just graduating?
I think it's learning how to use it to be the best of what you're doing, right? Like, I think it's going to be a part of every one of our lives. And if you're not embracing it and finding, like, let it do the work that's repetitive and the things that are taking all your time, and then let it help you be smarter than you are and not be scared of it, to use it for sure.
Great. Anyone else?
AI won't be a replacement for learning how to think. And
Yes.
so for anyone who is entering the workforce for the first time, my biggest advice is learn how to think and understand how you think, and then apply AI to help you better automate some of those smaller tasks. But it will never be a replacement for how to think and how to problem solve either.
Yeah, 100%. It's a tool. It's a tool. And what we do as marketers, right? Like, it's partially art. And I just don't see a replacement of that. But I love using a tool so I can not work on stuff that doesn't matter and drive business and growth and impact, right? So it's like that, use the tool, learn the tool. I love what Wendy just said. Spot on, but it's a tool.
Yeah, I just had that conversation with my daughter actually, and she was asking me about it, a little scared about it. I said, no, you got to figure out where are inefficiencies where you can leverage AI tools to move faster and more efficiently than anybody else. And that's really where I see it going.
Okay, Dad. Good advice.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Great panel, everybody.
Thank you.